Welcome to the SBI Podcast, offering CEOs, sales and marketing leaders ideas to make the number.
Hello, SBI Podcast subscribers. My name is Ryan Tognazzini. I'm a principal with SBI, a sales and marketing consulting firm dedicated to helping you make your number. With me on the show today is Scott Brewer, a partner with SBI. On this show, we discuss sales and marketing best practices for viewers just like you, executives trying to grow their revenues. How you doing today, Gru?
I'm doing awesome. Looking forward to the show.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so on today's show, we're going to tackle marketing strategy. Specifically, how do you know if yours is broken and what to do to fix it? So to do this, we'll be using SBI's How to Make Your Number in 2016 workbook. And you can get this by going to salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-report. SBI's Make Your Number workbook uses a 6-step revenue growth methodology, and today we'll be in step 4, marketing strategy. And inside marketing strategy, there is a 5-step methodology, which we'll be discussing on our show. All right, Gru, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start by submitting a definition to our audience of marketing strategy. So why don't you take this one on for our viewers?
Okay. So a marketing strategy is an operating plan for a company's marketing department. It allocates resources efficiently to drive revenues. When you use a marketing strategy, it means the marketing department builds buyer preference for your company's products.
All right, so that's a mouthful. So let's stop for a second here and unpack that. So what's an operating plan and why do I care?
Yeah, a couple of things here. An operating plan helps define what the marketing department will do. It's like a playbook for marketing. It also should answer why you're doing it, who will do it, and by when. You care about this because marketing typically spends around 5% of revenues in a B2B company. If you're $1 billion, that's $50 million in expenses to the business. So no small chunk of change. If those dollars aren't used to drive revenues, that's a big price tag for no results.
Yeah, fair enough. And so if I have a $50 million budget, I better have a super tight plan for how I'm going to do it and what results I'm going to bring into the business.
Yeah, exactly. And the results piece is huge. Often we see companies with big marketing budgets, but they aren't clearly tied to returns. The money gets spent, but nobody is sure what results is generated. Companies are tracking things like website traffic, Facebook likes, trade show leads, but it's not clear how those things are ultimately delivering the number, or if they're doing the right things at all.
Yeah, and if you're a marketer shaking your head that 5% of revenues would be a dream budget for you, you're going to enjoy today's show because we're going to talk about how you might be able to accomplish this via your marketing strategy. So, Scott, how do I know if marketing is generating an ROI in my company?
Yeah, so there's definitely some things to look for. The ultimate indicator is leads. Is marketing generating enough leads? Of the ones they're generating, are they closing, turning into revenue?
Yeah, good point. So a lot of times companies, they get super focused on generating more leads, but they're not necessarily generating better leads.
Yeah, exactly. And in some companies, just generating demand for their product is a big challenge. So the conventional wisdom is that something is better than nothing. In reality, the implications of generating a lot of leads that are low quality is the impact it can have on things like win rate and the average deal size. Not to mention the sales team will start to not trust marketing and they'll look at a lead as something they just throw to the side.
And it's sort of the old adage of garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, and we tend to see a lot of this in what we call level 1 companies, which operate in chaos.
Yeah, so what Scott's talking about is SBI's revenue growth maturity model, which you can find in the Make Your Number workbook. And what you're looking at here is a maturity model that places companies anywhere from level 1, which is chaos, all the way through level 5, which is predictable. And companies operating in chaos, they may have documented corporate strategies, but they don't necessarily have documented functional strategies. And so in this case, it would mean marketing, product, sales, and talent strategies do not exist and are not aligned with any type of external market research.
Correct. So in this case, marketing is throwing whatever it can at the wall to see what's going to stick in an effort to generate leads. The end result is those leads don't convert to revenue. Money got spent, but the results never followed.
Yeah, and contrast that with a level 5 organization where, not only do they have functional strategies, but they're both implemented and aligned to external markets that they serve.
Yep. So here you have a marketing organization that is not only very tightly aligned with product sales, et cetera, but also knows how to best generate demand in the markets the company serves. In this case, a company is generating enough leads of very high quality for sales to convert into customers.
Yeah, and who wouldn't love to be in a company as a sales rep? You're getting enough quality leads in order to make your number.
Yeah. How often do you hear some sales rep complain, I got way too many good leads this week, right?
Never.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and a final and big point to make here is that the impact that this can have on the company in the form of two critical metrics, which is customer acquisition cost and customer lifetime value. So let's quickly introduce those to the audience.
Yeah, so customer acquisition cost, or CAC, is defined as the total amount of sales and marketing dollars you spend to generate a new customer. So if you're spending $100 million in sales and marketing to acquire a new customer, and you generate 1,000 new customers, your customer acquisition cost is $100K, $100,000.
Yep, and your customer lifetime value, or CLTV, is the average amount a customer spends with you over their lifetime. So if they're spending $100,000 a year with you over a 5-year period, your CLTV is $500,000.
Yeah, so tying this back to marketing, take a look at what we've got on the screen here. If you're operating more like a level 1 company, our research has found that the cost to acquire a customer is typically 30% higher than a level 5 company.
Yeah, and CLTV can be as much as 26% higher for level 5 over level 1. And this can have huge implications on how you spend in marketing and the return it generates, which ultimately leads to the creation of things like shareholder value. What goes in your pocket in the form of bonuses at the end of the year. So, all right, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to show a couple examples of how a misaligned strategy can cause big problems with CAC and CLTV and what you can do to fix it. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Do you have too many things to do and not enough time to do them? Is finding time to learn best practices almost impossible? The SBI Podcast is your solution. Turn time spent exercising, commuting, and traveling into productive learning time with a subscription to the SBI Podcast. SBI Podcast listeners get unique insight into real-world sales and marketing issues through interviews with your industry peers every week. Find us on iTunes by searching for Sales Benchmark Index Podcast and subscribe today.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. So today we're talking about marketing strategy and the impact it can have on making your number. In our first segment, we introduced customer acquisition cost and customer lifetime value based on being either a level 1 or a level 5 company on the revenue growth maturity model. So Gru, in this segment, let's shift our focus to an example of how this can play out and what it means for our audience.
What you're looking at on the screen is a very basic customer acquisition cost calculation example for a level 1 company. In this example, a $500 million company is spending $75 million in sales and marketing to acquire 300 new customers. If you divide that $75 million by the 300 new customers signed, the company is spending $250,000 to acquire each new customer, Ryan.
Yeah, and now consider the same example, but for a level 5 company. So in our last segment, we mentioned level 5 companies typically are able to make a 30% improvement on customer acquisition cost from level 1 companies. So in this example, the company's still spending the same $75 million, but they're able to generate 425 new customers as a result, which has driven down the CAC by about 30%, down to just over $175,000. So what should this example tell me if I'm watching today?
Yeah, what this should tell you about the effectiveness of your strategy is that both companies are spending the same amount on sales and marketing, but the level 5 company is generating a much higher return on the investment than the level 1 company.
And it compounds for level 1 companies. So an easy way to think about this is if you're a level 1 company and you need to sign the same 425 new customers next year that the level 5 company acquired, I mean, based on your customer acquisition cost of $250,000, it's gonna cost you $106 million to get there instead of the $75 million of the level 5. So, I mean, pick your poison. Either sign fewer customers or ratchet up the cost in order to generate, the same amount of customers as the level 5 company.
Getting that amount of budget, if you're a sales and marketing leader, is highly unlikely, especially if the results are poor. That's when budget starts to get slashed.
True. So let's talk about the implications this can have on customer lifetime value, now shifting over from customer acquisition cost. So let's say the customers you sign in the level 1 example, they're spending an average of $100,000 a year with you on an annual basis. And on average, those customers stay with your company for 4 years. So this means you've got a lifetime value of $400,000. So you've spent $250,000 to generate this customer who will spend $400,000 over a 4-year period with you. So the ratio on this is about a 1.6 to 1. So in other words, we spent $1 and we generated about $1.60. But the break-even time on that customer, even more importantly, it's taking 30 months to get that customer to pay you back and break even on them.
That's a long time. So I have to hang on to a customer for 2.5 years just to recoup my investment. If you compare that to level 5 example, they are typically about 26% better on customer lifetime value. Using the same example, the customer spends $126,000 per year over the same period. This produces $104,000 more customer lifetime value, which is now a 2.9 to 1 ratio with customer acquisition cost, and shortens the break-even period from 30 months to 17 months.
Yeah, so you can see that the same 5% of marketing spend can do very different things for a company, when they're operating in the chaos of level 1 versus the, predictability of a level 5 company. So Gru, some of our viewers might be looking at this and saying to themselves, I get it, but what's causing the problem for my organization? So some thoughts for our audience on this?
Yeah, in these examples, it's easy to point the finger at marketing, right, and say that they're the cause of all this pain. It's marketing's fault. They're sending us poor leads over the fence, the conversion rates are low, and therefore we aren't generating enough ROI on these leads, right, to make our number. But there's some key differences that distinguish level 1 from level 5 companies. The main one being strategic alignment.
Yeah, so when you're operating in a highly unpredictable environment, it's tough to drop the hammer on the marketing leader for all that ails you.
Yeah, I've been in some pretty brutal dogfights between sales and marketing in my time with SBI, and you almost want to crawl under the table.
Is there a table that you can fit under?
Not very many. Maybe Paul Bunyan's.
All right, so let's show our audience something I think will help them visualize this alignment. So what you're looking at here is an image of SBI's 6-step revenue growth methodology. And you can see there are 6 key links in a chain, which is the image, starting with market research on the left and ending with talent on the right. So Scott, if I'm marketing, how should I think about my role in this chain that we're looking at?
Yeah, there's some simple things to point out here. First of all, it's a chain for a reason. Chains are strong, and there's interconnection between each one of the functional strategies. When there's a weak link in the chain, it breaks. So companies who are not aligned have weak links, and things start to break. The key is, how do you get that functional alignment across the entire chain so it can't break?
Yep, and so, for the purposes of today's discussion, let's just look at 2 items, one directly to the left and one directly to the right of marketing, so product and sales. So how should I think about products if I'm a marketer and there's a weak link here?
Some questions you'll want to ask as it relates to products. Are you launching new ones this year? What problems will they solve for the customers you serve? Will you sell them to the same customers or different customers? What value will this solution bring to their organization? Where do the buyers and the users of these products hang out, both on and offline?
Yeah, so if you're in charge of creating demand for these products as a marketer, how can you be effective without all the answers to these questions? Those are a lot of things that are going to help you develop your content. So it's almost impossible for a marketer to be successful. Go ahead and tie my hands behind my back and ask me to go ahead and start generating leads. So, all right, so let's shift to the right side of the chain, which is sales. So marketing doesn't have these answers, and so now they have to do the best that they can, but now the leads we get are random, or they're cold, or they're just plain awful, and I'm sending these over to sales. So if I'm the sales leader, I'm not willing to put my expensive resources against leads that close at lower rates, or if they close at all. So now I'm dealing with a frustrated sales force who blames me for all the bad leads that are coming because I don't really have the right message. And on top of that, I'm spending more time prospecting, which is causing even lower productivity as a sales rep.
Yeah, and the cycle continues in level 1 companies because they never get out of their own way to fix it. Instead, they deploy tactics in each of their siloed groups. Product tries new features, marketing tries a new campaign or event, sales lowers prices. Ultimately, the customer acquisition costs and lifetime value get worse because they're all killing each other instead of working together to solve it. You're thrashing, basically.
So if you're a marketer watching this right now, hopefully you're nodding your head saying, this is what I've been saying. If you're the product leader, sales leader, or maybe even the CEO, hopefully you're asking yourself, how well you've set marketing up for success based on the strategic alignment of your organization.
Yeah, it's not an easy problem to fix. It takes time and coordinated effort from all the functional leaders in the chain. Okay, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to introduce the 5-step marketing strategy methodology and discuss how you can help your marketing organization get aligned and start generating the right type of leads to get your number. But first, stay tuned for these words.
Making your number is hard. Your problems are complex. Complex problems need complex solutions. Introducing the SBI Magazine. Read in-depth stories written by award-winning journalists about how your peers have overcome their problems to make the numbers. When you need more than a tweet, social post, or blog article, turn to the SBI Magazine. Go to salesbenchmarkindex.com to subscribe.
Welcome back. Today we're discussing marketing strategy and how it fits into helping make your number. In our first two segments, we discussed the impact of misalignment using examples from level 1 and level 5 companies from the revenue growth maturity model. Specifically, the impact poorly functioning organizations can have on customer acquisition cost and lifetime value. So Ryan, we defined marketing strategy earlier in the show as being a 5-step methodology. Let's introduce this and talk a bit about how it can help drive functional alignment.
Sure. So what you're looking at on your screen here is the 5-step marketing strategy methodology. So the 5 steps are planning, which is developing your brand, campaign, budget, and data plans that are going to allow you to make the number. Step 2, which is engagement, which is defining the processes with which the marketing team will interact with your prospects and customers. You've got step 3, which is org, which is all about making sure you've got the right organizational structure to set up correctly, and you've got the right people in the right jobs to execute the strategy. Step 4, which is execution, and here it's all about executing on the strategy by focusing on the areas that product marketing, content production, campaign execution, and so on. And then lastly, you've got support, which is helping the sales team remain effective into perpetuity by supporting them and making the internal organization easy to do business with.
Sounds like a heavy lift. If I'm a marketer, do I just go off, complete these steps, and I'm good to go?
Yeah, I mean, in level 2 and 3 organizations, that's often what happens. So the strategy gets created and often it even gets implemented, but it's not necessarily aligned to the other functional groups or to the external markets like a level 5 company. So the key thing to focus on here is alignment. So in order to make these 5 steps really come to life, it means marketing needs certain things from the other functions in order to have a strategy that really produces results.
So let's talk about how each of the other functional groups can help with this. Earlier, we showed you the 6-step revenue growth methodology as links in a chain. You'll notice marketing isn't called out until step 4. So let's look at each of these, starting with market research.
Market research is understanding the external markets. And this is a huge input into marketing strategy. It tells you about the markets in which you want to compete, the accounts to prioritize, how to engage buyers and users in early stage conversations, and what they want from you. And so if you don't have this information as a marketer, your hands, are tied behind your back before you even spend your first dollar.
Who typically does this market research?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes companies have a whole team of people who do this. We've also seen this sit in the products group. We've also seen it sit in the marketing group. The key is that somebody actually owns it and they make it real and they make sure it gets updated on a regular basis. A lot of times companies will do this once and they'll forget about it, or they'll do it once every couple of years. And I mean, let's face it, the world changes way too fast, to rest on last year's or 2 years or 3 years old information in order to make some of these decisions.
Okay, let's shift to corporate strategy. This is usually developed by the CEO. In terms of helping the marketing team, it sets the objectives. Do we want to sell more new logos, grow existing customers? Are we trying to keep the customers we have? Based on knowing the corporate strategy, the marketing strategy can help understand its value to the organization.
And imagine the CEO is on a profit growth initiative he wants to achieve through selling more to existing customers, but the marketer is spending half of her budget on new logo acquisition. So that's an example of being way out of alignment.
And you're back to increased customer acquisition cost and decrease in customer lifetime value for poor results.
Yeah, okay, so let's shift to the product team. So what does a marketer need in order to be aligned with this group, Scott?
Product tells the marketer what to talk about. You might be able to generate campaigns like crazy, but if you got the wrong message, they won't yield any results. Marketing needs product to tell them what problems the product solves, for whom, and how. Based on this, the marketing team can generate content that will resonate with those buyers.
Otherwise, you end up spending a fortune on things like paid leads, as an example, that often convert at much lower rates. So the alignment here between product and marketing is key. Let's now turn to sales.
This is the one that needs to be most closely aligned to marketing. How many leads does marketing need to produce in order for sales to make their number? What about feedback from sales on which leads are good, bad, and why?
This is huge. So, one thing we often see in sales is sales, they basically say the leads stink, right? So they stop following up, but they never even bother to tell marketing.
Yeah. If you're a sales leader, the temptation is to throw them back over the fence and say they suck. But imagine the impact marketing could have if they were able to improve what they sent you. This requires constant communication to make sure you're aligned.
Yeah, and the last one here is talent. So for marketing, you need good people in order to execute your strategy. And it's your job to tell HR or your recruiting department or whomever is responsible for helping you identify talent what you need and when you need it. And it's their job to go out and find those people for you. So what do you think is needed from an alignment perspective here?
If you give HR poor job specs, don't be surprised if they give you poor candidates. Not to mention if your job specs represent legacy talent and roles that don't support your strategy. This is a cycle that can perpetuate into some very contentious conversations with HR.
Yeah, no question. So if you're not aligned with the people responsible for bringing talent to the organization, it's going to be an uphill battle. But it starts with the other strategies, and it's why talent is last. So there are critical dependencies on market research, corporate, product, and sales strategies here. And the key here, again, is making sure that you're well aligned and you actually understand and know what those other groups are doing.
Good discussion, Ryan. The key takeaway from all this is functional alignment. If you've got this using the 6-step revenue growth methodology, you've increased your chances of making your number. To learn more about this, you can get the How to Make Your Number in 2016 report at salesbenchmarkindex.com. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, we wish you the best of luck as you try to make your number. So long.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on SBI services, case studies, the SBI team and how we work, or to subscribe to our other offerings, please visit us at salesbenchmarkindex.com.